Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. The masks are on. We are socially distanced and happy to have you along on CWFalcons.com. My name is Matt Mendel, being joined by Kendall Applebaum, the assistant coach for both women's hockey and women's lacrosse here at Concordia. In segment number 2, we'll be joined by Hannah Podbilski, who is a sophomore part of the track and field program. But Kendall, let's start with you. And you're from Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Came here to Concordia after you had a collegiate career playing hockey and lacrosse at Oswego State. What initially brought you here to the Mequon campus?
Well, it's actually pretty funny. My assistant coach in college, she was really good friends with Emily, the head coach here. We just kind of connected, and she was like, "Do you want to continue coaching, continue the kind of world of lacrosse?" And I was like, "Absolutely." While getting my master's degree, it's kind of a no-brainer, and it kind of fell into my lap that I could start with hockey as well. So it's obviously stuck, and I enjoy it so much, and I'm very thankful for that connection.
Did you know anything about the campus or about Mequon, Wisconsin prior?
No, I actually had only been in Wisconsin once for nationals. When I was like 16, I was in Green Bay. That was all I knew about Wisconsin, so I kind of just went with it. I knew the cold weather, similar to Buffalo, so couldn't go wrong there.
Well, it's funny you bring up weather because I wanted to ask you about the comparison or maybe the differences between a Buffalo winter and a Wisconsin winter.
Pretty similar. I would say lake effect snow in Buffalo is a little bit much. It's kind of like a brick wall. But the wind here is a little bit more rough, so that's been an adjustment.
So are you a big Buffalo Bills fan?
Absolutely. Bills Mafia all the way.
And they're having a pretty good season.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo Sabres as well, I'd assume.
Yep, of course.
So what made, and you talked about your connection or getting the opportunity here at Concordia, but what made the grad assistant position with women's lacrosse attractive to you?
Well, getting my master's was really important to me. Of course, I wanted to continue my education right out of college. I didn't want to take a year off or anything like that. And it just was kind of attractive to me that I could get real life experience coaching as a full-time assistant. Sometimes the grad assistant job, it seems like you're just kind of more of a student, but when you're in it, you're really like a coach, so you're getting that hands-on experience while still being in school. It's kind of the best of both worlds for me.
And obviously you have the playing background, but was it a smooth transition going from being on the playing field to now being in a coaching capacity?
Yep, definitely an adjustment. The competition's still there, of course, but it is hard, that transition to playing and then to kind of changing that into vocalization as opposed to the physical play of it was difficult. But you get into it. We get into practice all the time. Emily and I always have our sticks. We're always, playing 7-on-7s and stuff like that. So that part's really fun.
What do you think was the biggest adjustment from being a player to a coach?
I guess probably being on the sidelines, not being able to get out there when, there's 2 minutes left and, you know what there needs to be done to get the win or something like that. It's kind of harder to explain it rather than just going to do it.
Do you find it to be an advantage? I mean, you're not that far removed from your playing days. I mean, you're close age-wise to a lot of the athletes today. Do you find it to be an advantage you can relate to a lot of the things that they have going on?
Definitely. And I also think that a lot of our players never had female, let alone young female coaches in their, upbringing and high school careers. So I think that that's been really beneficial, and that kind of translation has been easier for me as well.
And there's a number of athletes, both on the women's hockey team, on the women's lacrosse team here at Concordia, that play multiple sports. You were a multi-sport athlete in college. How were you able to juggle both, and how are you able to relate maybe to what they have going on because you've been there?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Emily also played both, so we've kind of adjusted in that way. And she coached hockey here as well. But it's been a good kind of transition to each sport, if that makes sense. They kind of go hand in hand. I think that where there's a lot of difference in their competition, they kind of work together. For me, I like to be super busy. I will not do anything if I have days off, so I've always kind of worked that way. But I work with their time management all the time. Sometimes they need some, time to cool off, maybe in between lacrosse and hockey, take a couple days, and that's totally fine. So we're just very communicative in that sense.
How about for you from back in your athletic days, juggling the two sports? Was it something that maybe, was it easy from the get-go, going from one to the next, or was it something that you got into a routine as the years went by?
Definitely you get into a routine. I think that your freshman year, sophomore year, it's a little bit harder. From a physical standpoint, skates to cleats is pretty difficult. So a lot of ice baths, a lot of AT time for sure, for them and for me.
Testing your memory a little bit from your days at Oswego State, what are some of your highlights, some of your memories from your time playing the two sports?
Oh, had to think about that one. Just really playing in that rink. I mean, we were very privileged to have such a beautiful arena. Beating a top #1 team in the nation when we played Plattsburgh and beat them. That was awesome. And then from a lacrosse standpoint, beating Brockport, beating those top 5, top 10 teams were always so special. I definitely miss those days. It's sometimes sad to reminisce on those moments.
What do you think about your days with the Lakers? Who, from a competition standpoint, who's the big rival for us, Weagle State?
I would say we definitely rivaled Utica. We were definitely kind of behind Plattsburgh, Elmira, and then it was us fighting for third. So I would definitely say Utica for sure.
Now, you graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Wellness Management and a minor in athletic coaching. Was it always the plan at some point when you were done playing that you would want to go the coaching route?
I definitely wanted to in some capacity. I didn't fully know that I was going to be a college coach. My dad coached me growing up. He played in college as well. I knew it was always going to be something, whether it was, a 12U team on the side, a high school team. But now that it's college, I'm obviously very happy that I'm still in this realm. And I wouldn't change it for anything, really.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had a role model or an influence when it came to coaching growing up, and I'm going to venture to guess that was your dad?
Yeah, definitely. He was there every step of the way. Probably, growing up, obviously, and then through high school a little bit, he still helped out every once in a while. But we were on the road every weekend together. He was always kind of my #1 fan as well when he stopped coaching.
Is there a lesson or two or a bit of advice that he gave you that has always stuck with you, that served you well now in your coaching role?
Yeah, just to, not get discouraged. I think sometimes I'd get angry with myself and be like, oh, I wish I had that play or whatever it may have been. And just to kind of take a step back away from it and be like, everything's good. You got tomorrow, you got another game, and it's no biggie.
You look at your role, at least as a grad assistant during the 2018-19 seasons in women's lacrosse, and, in some sports, a grad assistant is, you kind of talked about it too. It's not much of a difference from being a athlete turned coach. It's kind of that in between. Obviously in lacrosse, you're the #2. I mean, there is no other assistant. You are the assistant. What was your role, or what did you feel your responsibilities were in your grad assistant role with women's lacrosse?
I think the biggest hat I wore was more of an offensive coordinator, so I handled attack, mainly kind of developing plays, all that stuff, more of the offensive side, and Emily kind of focused more defensively.
And you had some nice players to work with. I mean, you look Lauren Paquin among others.
Yeah.
How much fun were those 2 seasons? Just, again, getting your feet wet and getting acclimated with coaching.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, the bond that we got to, kind of create with those players and with them together as a unit was so strong. It was pretty magical to kind of see that, and it was fun for my first 1-2 years to kind of see that great talent, record holders today. It's pretty special.
You had a magical spring of 2019, if you will, in the summer. All of a sudden you get your master's degree, and then you're named both the full-time assistant for both women's hockey and women's lacrosse. Did you ever envision that you would stay here in a full-time capacity after your grad assistant days?
I didn't. I mean, honestly, I didn't really think about it quite yet. As a coach, you move a lot, right? So I could, you can end up being anywhere. So you kind of go into every year and every season open-minded. But as soon as, Rob kind of offered me that position, I had to take it, of course. I wanted to get into college hockey, but I didn't really want to give up college lacrosse. So this was obviously the best of both worlds.
When you touched on it a little bit earlier with one of your answers, last year you got a little bit of a taste of the overlapping, obviously COVID-19, ending the lacrosse season early. What is that like, that transitional period? All of a sudden you have a little bit overlapping between February and March. How are you able to, again, handle both responsibilities?
I think I'm able to handle it well. I mean, similar to the players who I have currently who play hockey and lacrosse, or maybe some other sports. We've got one who plays 3 sports.
Yeah.
I look at them and I see the hard work they do, and I'm like, oh, I can do it. I have no issues. They're the ones, physically putting it all out there. I can be there emotionally, to have their back, so to say.
Well, this past fall, women's lacrosse had a training camp in preparation for what we hope, knock on wood, will be a season coming up in the springtime. How did training camp or practice maybe look different in the fall from training camps in the past?
Definitely creative. The socially distant practices has been interesting, but I think it's pushed me as a coach and Emily as well, and same with hockey for that matter. But fall ball was definitely interesting, kind of coming up with new drills to adapt to 6 feet apart and, still be, getting a good sweat out there if we can't physically play.
From a women's lacrosse standpoint, how's the team looking? Obviously, from what you saw in training camp, I know roster-wise, numbers-wise, you guys are up. Depth is there.
Yeah, it's good. We're really excited about our freshman class. We've got some serious talent, and they're going to be, starters for sure, no doubt about it. Some really good goal scorers, some really good physical strength in the midfield as well. And we're really excited for the people that we got coming in for the following year as well. Really good uphill climb here for lacrosse, which is cool to see.
And again, if everything goes according to plan in women's lacrosse, the season starts March 1st at Elmhurst. Home opener is March 6th. That's against North Central. How about now from a women's hockey standpoint? I'll ask you the same question. Okay, with training camp, with practice here in the fall, in the winter, how does that look different from years past?
Also has been an adjustment. We've had a few, situations where we've had people in quarantine. We've had 10 skaters, 8 skaters at a time. But honestly, sometimes that becomes really, really beneficial for them. You've got 3 coaches to 8 skaters. You're going to get a lot of one-on-one time, really fine-tuning the fundamental skills that they need to fine-tune. And we don't typically have time when there's 25 on the ice.
For coaching, is it a little bit different right now in the sense that not only are you trying to coach a team, but it seems like, for a lot of coaches, you almost have to, kind of juggle and help with morale because you look from a hockey standpoint, you've already had a couple of games canceled because of COVID. You have another game this weekend, at least the home date, that's off the calendar as of right now. You guys will open up your season at Trine on Saturday. But with all this practice and all this, the training camp, the question is, when's there going to be a game? I mean, is it hard to keep morale? Is that kind of been an obstacle this fall?
Yeah, well, I mean, as everyone knows, it's kind of difficult to just be, practicing without a game. It gets kind of, what is the word? Repetitive? I don't know.
You're
whatever.
Close.
Repetitive. Close enough. Repetitive. Oh my God, that was so difficult. But no, a lot of, really competitive drills, when we could go face to face, not socially distant. We're doing a lot of 3v3s, a lot of game-like battle drills to kind of keep that competition, blue versus white. At least, we have some sort of game when we don't actually have games going on.
And like with women's lacrosse, look at women's hockey a little bit and what's it looking like here this season. If again, whenever that puck does drop, you have 6 seniors, a lot of experience back. How's the team looking?
Really good. And we actually had some seniors in quarantine, and they just got back, and they were on fire yesterday. They were so ready to go. I think that right now our energy is up so high because we do have a game on Saturday. So if all goes well, they really deserve it. They've been working their butts off.
Again, that matchup on Saturday, if all goes according to plan, 6 p.m. Central at Trine, so in Indiana for that matchup. And then at some point the conference schedule will be announced, and hopefully that gets going in January. But your captain this year is Allie Hall, and last year she had 5 goals, 5 assists, at a big game winner in the postseason against Lake Forest. What are you hoping to see out of Allie Hall? What makes her the perfect candidate to be the captain?
Well, she's also got a lot of that energy. She's really keeping the team together, keeping that morale up. She's also super competitive. She holds people accountable. She's going to tell you like it is as much as she possibly can. And I think that, as far as the goals go, and fingers crossed we have a season where she can finish out her career on a high note.
And you look at your assistant captains, you have junior Emily Reimke along with senior Maddie Savage. Again, what have you seen from them so far in practice? What do you expect from those two?
I expect just as much as I do from Allie. Emily Reimke is another really good one who's very motivational. Savage is an interesting one. I actually haven't gotten to coach her yet 'cause she's coming back from her kind of year off. So just learning her kind of chemistry-wise, and, she's been great as well. So nothing but good things from those 3. Definitely a great group to be leading the pack.
So what most excites you about what will be the 14th season in program history?
Hopefully it happens, for one. And like I said, the seniors have been working so hard and kind of bringing it all the way down to the freshmen, and they really deserve a season. I know it's kind of out of our hands, and that's something we've been kind of preaching to them all year. Just be thankful you have today. Thankful you get to lace up your skates and go out there, because a lot of people don't.
So to wrap it all up, and I know you don't want to look past the here and now, but for you, what's the ultimate goal? I mean, you want to be a head coach in both sports, one sport, one day. What's the ultimate goal?
That's changed a few times. I'm sure it will in the next 5 years as well. I love both. I definitely would be happy being a head hockey coach or a head lacrosse coach. I just want both sports in my life. If I had to be picky, I'd probably pick hockey just because, hockey's a sport you play since you're 2 years old. But I love both sports. I'd love to have my own program one day.
Well, good stuff, Kendall. Thanks a lot for your time. And, again, hopefully hockey, you have something to do come Saturday in Indiana against Trine. And we'll see the hockey team hopefully in action at the Ozaki Ice Center again come January. That's Kendall Applebaum. And when we come back, we'll talk with Hannah Podbilski as we talk track and field as we continue on this week's edition of Falcon Focus.
Seems every college starts by asking the same question. What do you want to do for a living? You want to be a teacher, a businessman, a nurse? At Concordia University, we ask a slightly different question. What kind of person do you want to be? Because we believe success in life should be measured by how you live, not just what you do. Of course, that may not be the common way, but at Concordia, it's the only way. Concordia University. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We have the hand sanitizer. Of course, as we do every week, we got to keep the air clean, and we got the disinfectant spray. We are socially distanced. The masks are on, and being joined now by the track. Oh man, I'm glad the mask is on right now. The track and field sophomore Hannah Podbilski, kind enough to join us. Hannah, I apologize first of all for the disinfectant spray in the air, but it will, I'm sure, go away shortly. But how did you get involved in track and field here at Concordia?
So that's actually an interesting story. I was in the weight room one day, and the track and field coach, Russ DeLapp, he came up to me and he was like, "Wow, you're lifting a lot of weight. You're very strong. Would you be interested in joining the track and field team?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe. That seems like something that could be fun." So I thought it over a while, and I talked to my family and my friends and see what they thought, and they were like, "That seems like a good opportunity to try out, especially at a D3 college like Concordia, where everyone is welcome to try and just do their best." And it's been very fun. I'm so glad I tried it.
And we'll talk a little bit about your Taekwondo background because that's a big story, and you've gotten a lot of great publicity for it. But was track and field, or at least the javelin throw, was that ever a thought in your mind prior to?
Honestly, I had never thought of it. I never really did any sports in high school besides Taekwondo. So coming into college, I didn't think I would be doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was approached by Russ, I was like, well, this seems like a very good opportunity to help me be a better athlete and to try my hand at other competitions. And I was so grateful for the opportunity.
So how did you figure out that the javelin throw would be your event?
I have to give that credit to Russ again. He saw me and he was like, "You seem like you have the upper body strength for a javelin thrower." And I was like, well, that's something I could definitely try. And it was a little unnatural at first because, two different sports, I'm using my legs in Taekwondo, and for track, I'm using my arms. So it was a little weird and uncomfortable to use my upper body at first. But as soon as I got into the motions, I found it to be a lot of fun, and it's just a new skill set, It's just learning how to move your body in a different way.
You had a career best, let me get the number correct, 22.38 meters in the javelin at the NAC Outdoor Championships back in 2019. So I guess technique-wise, what's the key to a quality throw?
That is a very good question. You want to make sure you have a really good run-up because you get most of your speed and your strength from your run-up. If you don't have like a fast run-up, you're not going to get the power that you need to snap your hips, and all that power comes from it. So if you want to throw it further, you want to make sure you get the power in your run-up and snap your hips so it can go further.
So have you figured all this out through trial and error, or is this just stuff that you were taught, prior to trying?
Some of it was trial and error. Some of it also was with my javelin coach, and he was able to, give me pointers and tell me give me verbal cues and be like, snap your hips more, try to turn your body into it. And it was really great of him too because he would take things from Taekwondo and try to integrate it into javelin throwing.
Sounds good, yeah.
Absolutely. So it really helped me to, figure things out by taking it from one sport and then moving it to the next sport.
So now you haven't competed yet indoors over the last couple of years. You obviously had last year's outdoor season shortened due to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I guess with a season potentially coming up here, in the end of winter, into the springtime, do you just start practicing again? Do you just pick it back up and go, or do you have to do anything between now and then to just kind of keep yourself fresh and in that mindset?
Normally between now and then, I'll go to conditioning sessions with our strength and conditioning coach, and I'll follow a weightlifting program. I also have a practice javelin at home that I invested into because I really liked the sport I really wanted to practice it. So I've been throwing that around when I'm at home, and sometimes I'll bring it here, but it's kind of weird to see someone out there with a javelin just throwing it around.
Now, besides track and field, you mentioned Taekwondo has been a big part of your life, and I know you've gotten this question a lot with other stories that have been done about your background, but what led you to begin your Taekwondo journey at the age of 7?
So when I was a young kid, I was very shy, and also I was bullied in elementary school. So that really took a hit on my confidence, and it made me, turn inwards more. I was more shy because of that. And my parents thought it would be a good idea to put me into a sport that would give me more confidence. and they thought Taekwondo would be that sport, which it really has. I'm so happy with it.
So when they first approached you with Taekwondo, were there any reserves at first? Did you kind of go, Taekwondo? What are we talking about here?
I was very scared when I first started, especially as a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Little Hannah was like, "Oh no, what's happening?" It was very helpful because my brother joined with me, and he's 3 years older than me. So everything that we did together, and his confidence and like his leadership helped me to grow as a person, so that I could also become a leader.
And we'll talk about your brother Eric in a little bit because he too is a Concordia alum. I read too at the age of 7. You mentioned you were shy, and a lot of things scared you. Growing up. You talked about Taekwondo kind of being an outlet. Do you feel like now? Do you feel less shy, less fearful? I mean, does that really help in all those areas?
Oh, absolutely. I am a completely different person than I was back then. I love being social now. I'm outgoing. I'm very confident, so I like to try new things, even if I feel like I'm going to fail at them. So it's just one of the reasons why I feel like I was able to go out for the track and field team. Because otherwise, if I didn't have the confidence that Taekwondo gave me, I don't think I would have been brave enough to actually try it.
So the little Hannah probably wouldn't have done something like this.
Right, yeah.
When you started, I also read that you didn't love Taekwondo. It was just a hobby.
Correct.
When did it become a passion or a love of yours?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it was about when I was 14. When I was 14, I started getting into the fighting competition side of Taekwondo. And that was my really main focus. And once I started getting into that, I realized how much I loved the sport because, the adrenaline that you get by being in a ring and fighting another person is so cool. It's so cool. I love it. It just makes you think so much, and you have to. It's like a chess game, You have to think of your opponent as your opponent in chess. You have to strategize and think what they're going to do next.
So when you mentioned it's a hobby, now it's a love, it's a passion, and getting in the ring, did you ever envision, though, like when you started at 7, that, here you are now all these years later, that it would still be this part of your life, this big part of your life?
Absolutely not. I had no idea. Now I'm competing at national tournaments, and I've placed at national tournaments for the past 3 years, and I would never have thought that, especially since when I was that little, I hated fighting. I hated having to kick another person,
What's funny, because I was going to ask you about your accomplishments, because you've accomplished so much already in the sport, and the list keeps on growing. But what are some of the accomplishments you're most proud of at this point?
At this point, I would say the accomplishments that I am most proud of is I am a 5-time state champion for Wisconsin.
Jeez.
So that's been for the past 5 years since 2015. I think excluding this year, though, because we did not have the state tournament, unfortunately. And then for the past 3 years, I have medaled at nationals. So in 2017, I took second. In 2018, I took third. And in 2019, I took second again.
So then with all that having been accomplished already, that's what only some can dream of, what goals do you still have?
That is a super good question. It's something that I've been thinking about recently, actually. I would like to go back and try to go to nationals and fight again. Another kind of goal I have is to try to make the national team, because if you are able to place first at nationals, you have the opportunity to go and try out for the national team. And that's something that I would really love to do. It would be a great honor to represent my country in that way.
I saw that you were quoted as saying you want to, at some point be a master at the sport.
Right.
How do you master the sport? Like, in your opinion, what would that definition be?
That is also another good question.
We're full of good questions today. I like that.
So
Only
great.
on Falcon Focus.
So there's kind of like two definitions. In Taekwondo, when you receive a 4th degree black belt, then you are considered a master.
No kidding.
Yes, and in December 2019, I tested for my 4th degree black belt. So now I'm technically considered a master.
You're the master of the sport. I'm not worthy to be sitting here.
Oh, no. You're the master of Falcon Focus.
I appreciate that. I saw it. I have to ask. It sounds like at least Batman is a thing that you enjoy or a fan of. Batman. You have, I think, what is it? Batman Girl TKD is one of your social media nicknames.
Yep.
Where does your love of Batman come from?
So that's kind of funny. My coach actually introduced me to the Batman movies.
No kidding.
Yes, the Christian Bale Batman movies. And I was like, wow, this is so great. I love the Batman movies. And I just wanted to channel Batman and be as cool as Batman was. So I was like,
Can you do the voice, like the deep, like I'm Batman?
Oh, let's see if I can do it. Ready? I'm Batman.
See, now if I'm in the ring and you're doing that, forget it. I quit. TKO. You mentioned your brother Eric, though. I want to bring him up because, as mentioned, he's been a big inspiration for you, a big motivator. Have you two always been, it seems, since day one, at least in Taekwondo, you guys have been hand in hand and been real close. Have you guys always been that close, brother, sister?
We actually have. Growing up, we just got along super well. I'm not sure how or why, but we just always got along, and we always loved doing things with each other. And I feel like Taekwondo has given us, something even more to bond over. Now we are able to teach other younger kids, and we do it together, and we're able to pass on the love of the sport that way. So it connects us even more, I think.
And he came and graduated from Concordia. Is that one of the reasons why you came this route as well?
That is actually one of the reasons. I saw him at Concordia, and I was able to experience the campus because he would take me along with him, and he would let me go in the gym and kind of play around and everything. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool campus. And his praise of all the academics as well. And I just love it here. I'm so happy that he went here so that I was able to go here as well.
And before Concordia, I know with everything that you had going on and some of the things you had to deal with, you ended up going the Wisconsin Virtual Academy route prior to Concordia. I guess what went into that decision to leave, I guess, traditional in-person, schooling to go on the virtual route? And was it a transition for you going from that then to back in person once you got to Concordia?
I would say the reason why I switched over to the virtual school is a little bit because of the bullying, but also because my parents recognized that I wasn't being challenged in school enough, and they thought that, giving me a virtual schooling experience would allow me to go at my own pace and figure everything out. And also, with that virtual schooling, everything is very flexible. So I was able to do a lot of Taekwondo training while I was in virtual school because everything is flexible. You can just complete your assignments whenever you need to. But coming into Concordia from not being able to interact with people when you're at a virtual school, it was a little difficult at first because, you're not really used to the social interaction. But after about a week, I would say I integrated very nicely. I was so excited to be around people and just talk with people my age.
Well, you mentioned now, okay, so you're at Concordia, but you're also getting the opportunity besides focus on your own Taekwondo career. You and your brother get the opportunity to teach, coach. Ultimately, is that what you're hoping, once you're done here, once you're done with your college life, do you see that being a big part of your future, continuing to teach Taekwondo, continuing your Taekwondo career?
I could definitely see that being a big part of my future. Since I'm an athletic training major, I feel like I would be able to combine that career with teaching Taekwondo as well because it's a sport and, you have to think about all the athletic things that happen in Taekwondo. So I would feel like it would be great to combine those two passions together and just have a super dream job after college, That would be my hope.
To wrap it all up, how neat has it been for you? I know in the last couple of years you've had some nice stories done about you on the local news, couple of local news channels. You've had, interviews, all kinds of articles written about you, your background with Taekwondo. How neat has that been for you just to go through this whole experience and I guess to get this recognition of how you've overcome maybe some adversity growing up and how you've made it a positive?
I cannot say anything except that I am so grateful. Everyone has been so kind and they've seen something in me that sometimes I never really saw in myself. And through all the recognition, it's shown me the goodness of people and how kind they are. And I just can't say thank you enough to everyone that's done that for me. It's just been a great experience and yeah, everything, life is good. That's what I say. Life is good.
Well, Hannah, I got to thank you for telling your story. Thanks for coming on with us here this week. We appreciate it and all the best as you continue here at Concordia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
That's Hannah Podbilski. We also thank Kendall Applebaum for joining us during the first segment. Thanks to Sam Dunn and Jeremy Crawford behind the scenes. Matt Mitchell saying so long. Have a great rest of your week, and thanks for joining us this week for Falcon Focus.